recently my attention was grabbed by a painting pig by the name of Picasso. And as someone who really not only loves pigs, but am fascinated by their intelligence and their emotional lives, and also having encountered one or two other animals that paint along the way, I was intrigued. And I discovered that Picasso was part of a community of animals that lived on a farm sanctuary not so far away from me. So I decided to go and investigate for myself. I got to talk to the owner of the farm, Joanne Lefson, about the work that she's doing there and of course about Picasso. Joe, thank you so much for letting me visit you and your amazing family here. It's so great that some of them decided to take part in the interview. Who is this?
That is Blommy. I didn't give her the name. She came with that name. And to her left is Nacho. And Nacho was a rescued donkey from Greyton, actually. They found her, the donkey sanctuary over there found her on the side of the road. She's an old donkey, had a tough life, so they brought her here to live out the rest of her days in bliss.
So this is the farm animal sanctuary.
Yes.
I mean, I know a lot of people know it as the home of Picasso.
Yes.
But beyond just Picasso, we'll talk a little bit about later on.
Yes.
Obviously you have all sorts of animals here. I've seen cows, donkeys, pigs, obviously goats and sheep. Are they all rescue animals, or mostly rescue animals? Or?
Farm Sanctuary SA is an NPO to inspire compassion for farmed animals. So all the animals here are actually farmed animals, industrialized, animals that are raised in the industrialized food system. The donkeys aren't quite there, although there has been quite a lot of publicity recently about the slaughter of donkeys for their hides and things like that in China. But in principle, all the animals that come here have been rescued from industrialized facilities that basically, raise these animals for food production specifically.
And so do people actually come here, bring animals to you or report things to you?
We're a young organization. We opened on World Farm Animal Day on the 2nd of October. And so, we're still young and growing, and we don't even have that many animals here because, for example, a cow can live to 30 years old. Right. And we have a couple of hectares here, so I'm not in a position to go and rescue 30 cows, although I know just a few kilometers down the road, I can tell you that there are probably 50 one-day-year-old dairy cows that without their mothers, because that's the dairy industry, that need rescuing right now. I'm just not in a position to rescue all the farm animals. Right. So it's a small, humble project that has a handful of sort of like typical animals that we eat, and the idea is to make a story out of each of their lives and to inspire the masses, the mass consumers, to think a little bit differently and eat a little bit more compassionately. So we don't receive any funding. I was lucky enough to have a private donor that gave me enough funding to set this up, just to get it to where it is. And now pretty much we get a lot of the funding from donors that come in and out the doors, mainly on the weekends. Our biggest funding, of course, comes from two sources. One is we have a loft apartment in the barn, so people want to come and stay for a really unique night. And then the other thing, of course, is Picasso's paintings, which I know we're going to get to. In a nutshell, that's how we're getting our funds, and the project is completely sustainable at this point.
So, and was this your personal dream pet project, or how did it actually happen?
My main project, the reason why I'm in Franschhoek is I'm passionate about dog adoption, and that project is called Oscar's Ark, and we're running it in Cape Town at the moment, and we're saving a ton of shelter dogs' lives, and that's my mission. I acquired this piece of property as a bit of an extra, and I'd always had a dream of having rescued farm animals around me. I've always loved animals, and I've always wondered how there's such a big disconnect between people who say they love animals and then they're telling me this while they have a sausage roll or a hot dog, and I think to myself, how can it be that such nice, well-intentioned, smart, intelligent people can be saying they love animals, and yet 99% of the world's animals are farm animals, and they live in the most horrendous conditions that no one would actually find acceptable. So I just thought, it's never going to be a massive project as such, but let's create a barn. Let's have a bit of a philosophical, creative approach to how we present it. We don't need to show pictures of, slaughterhouses or animals in bad conditions. What we can do is basically give some quotes on the wall, inspiring quotes, some interesting pamphlets and things, so that when people stumble through these doors and they meet these animals, they can actually first of all connect with a farm animal that isn't a package but actually a living being, and then hopefully sort of make some sort of a connection that suddenly makes them think about the fact that, oh my goodness, when I actually eat a steak, it's actually the life of Blue, or when I have my ham sandwich, it's actually Picasso, and to make that connection in a positive way, because I just think that the average normal human being would absolutely support kinder food production and would absolutely make kinder choices if they just were able to make that connection.
It's just about compassionate and understanding what factory farming is.
Exactly.
I think it's the big challenge for people, because people don't really get it.
Yeah.
And so even if they are going to eat animals, they've got to understand what industrialized factory farming is.
But it's almost like a human nature. I think people actually do know. There's a lot of stuff that's going on now, and I mean, it's quite easy to, you hear things all the time of what's going on. I just think a lot of people just rather don't want to know. So the other goal that I have in the vision with this project is that people come in and make a connection, and in that connection they either go away going, gosh, I didn't know that, and let me change a few things that I do. And then there's the rest of the sort of human being that goes, I don't want to know. And that's also that's actually fine. We don't judge in this organization, but then please leave and say, I'm never going to say I love animals again, or I care about the environment, or I care about animals. Just be honest and say, you know what, I'm never going to say that again, because I can't love and care for animals if I consume them. And then that's cool. At least you've made an honest decision, and you're living a life of integrity, as opposed to, I love animals, and and you're just supporting the greatest animal welfare disaster on the planet today, amongst other disasters that, as we know, factory farming does.
So I know Picasso is your most famous ambassador. He's a he.
A she.
A she. She's a she.
At least you didn't say it. It's a she.
No, of course.
She is a she.
She has made quite a hit online in the last few months. And so she's famously the painting pig.
Yes.
So the first question, of course, is how did you discover she can paint? How did that happen?
Well, okay. Pigs are very smart, intelligent creatures. They're very stubborn. Picasso drives me nuts as well. But no, listen, Picasso and Rosie were two factory farmed piglets that I rescued. They were the first animals to stumble through these barn doors, and rescued them both from a normal, typical, nightmarish pig farm, actually in the Winans area, and brought them here to Farm Sanctuary. It was actually almost to the day exactly a year ago, and they were about a month old when I rescued them. So they now, Picasso is only 13 months old, and then I had to keep them a little bit entertained, because I figured if I didn't, they would probably eat the whole barn, because they eat everything. And so I just threw, we had some tennis balls, we had a rugby ball, we had different things to throw in there just to entertain them. And for some reason, Picasso was just taken by the brushes, didn't eat them, which was amazing, didn't destroy them. And just found a knack for playing with them, and I think it maybe was because of the bristles or something. And I just thought, well, what about maybe nurturing this potential hidden talent? Maybe she's a reincarnated version of Vincent van Gogh or something. So just through some positive reinforcement. It didn't take long before she was grabbing the brush and walking towards the canvas and painting. So it was quite amazing, and sort of the rest is history, really.
So how do you answer to those people who say it's an unnatural behavior for an animal? So you're kind of making animals do things that are unnatural.
That's an easy one. Well, first of all, I can't make Picasso do anything. She's about 400 kilos. I'm about 52. So I can tell you now that if I had a fight on that one, I would lose, and she'll probably eat me in any case. No, she's a vegan. No, and also, I mean, what is natural, not natural? I mean, driving a car, I never thought was natural for human beings, and things like that. But no, I think she really, again, pigs are smart and intelligent animals. They need to be entertained, and she goes up and she paints, and she likes it, and she some days she paints and some days she doesn't, and she stops when she wants and she starts when she wants, and no one on this planet is going to make her do anything that she doesn't want to do. So we just kind of leave it to her, and I think she really enjoys it.
Well, she certainly looks like she does. I think what people often forget is that, for example, a pig is an animal that does live amongst human beings.
Yes.
So there isn't a natural. Its natural behavior would be to interact with other animals, including ourselves.
Yes.
And animals have emotional lives, which I think a lot of people forget.
Yeah.
And so, when human beings, everyone always argues that what we do is unnatural, and so presumably everything we do must be natural because we're creatures doing it.
Yeah. No, exactly. And what I would add to that is also, first of all, Picasso is a living hog heaven here at Farm Sanctuary SA and stuff. If in the real world, she would have been a ham sandwich about 7 months ago. So anyone that challenged, what is she doing and does she like it? I would say she sure as hell prefers to be painting than have been digested 7 months ago. So she has a life here. She can roll on the mud. She can wander. She can forage. She can paint. She can eat. She can see. And she really loves her life. And as far as individual animals go, what's even amazing for me to see, it's not that it wasn't what I was expecting, but of all the animals we have here, they are all completely different, all individual, all have different sounds, have different communication, have different personalities. It's so cool and so amazing, and it is no different to human beings. And really, for us to think that we are the only ones that do certain things, that should paint, or that have friends or can communicate, it's just completely ridiculous. Every being has their own intrinsic nature and their own communication and their absolute desire to live as we do. And I just think it's easier to pretend that they don't, so that we have an excuse for treating them in a certain way. And it's just a convenient disconnect that makes how we treat them and how we eat them seem okay logically. But if you really analyze it, it doesn't make any sense at all.
That's, it reminds me of, people were always taught animals don't think and feel, and I think that's how we ended up in industrial farming, and it's all that undoing that people have to make now as well.
I wish in the real world, I could save them all, or we just could all live together in one, harmonic state. But just I actually feel blessed, and actually it's a privilege for me to come here in the morning and to see the animals and to interact with them. And I'm just glad that I can do my own little part of my own little way, and just, I'll never be able to measure the difference that this organization makes for the people that actually come here. But it's this little piece of property is sort of like my little dream of how I wish the world could be. And I just, on behalf of, I know all the farm animals here, we just hope to just inspire some people to make a little step. You're talking quotes. There's a quote outside on the one of the stone pillars there. It's a Lao Zhao, I don't know how you pronounce his name, that says, every journey of a million or 10,000 miles begins with one single step. And we just hope that single step can begin here for those that haven't started that journey, and who knows where that'll end. Wow. Hopefully without Picasso on the plate.
No, absolutely. But I think, I always think if you change one person's mind, that's a huge thing. Yeah. Because that person can have a child or have a conversation or something like that does make the biggest difference.
No. And it's amazing because, we learn from our parents, and so often, families come in here and they all say, you've got to bring schools here and kids, and the kids love it. And I think, we watch kids with our farm animals. It's intrinsically, they are empathetic towards animals, they love animals, and through conditioning, without them even knowing, they start to eat them, they start to not connect with animals and stuff, and before they know it, they're human beings wondering, what's the problem here? I love animals and I eat them, and that's what I was taught. So I actually always say to the parents, we want the parents to come in here, because actually we want the parents to reconnect with their intrinsic childhood empathy towards animals, know what's going on, and actually teach their children, to just follow through with what they intrinsically know as well. So we have those kind of conversations here, but as I say, it's not. There's no point having a fight with anyone about what they do. We still live unfortunately, in a way, live in a free society where the killing of non-human beings is absolutely acceptable and normal, and so you can't force anyone to change their ways legally. But I think done with a compassionate approach, I know that there's not one person that comes in here that understanding what's going on wouldn't think about it and know deep down honestly that something is totally wrong with our food production and the way that we treat these farm animals.
I think the tide must be turning because there are 3 vegan restaurants in central Cape Town.
And an elderly Indian lady arrived with 5 of her daughters, and she was just talking very quiet, doing her thing, and then she took a look up at the board and she saw the Gandhi poster, and I was just busy doing my thing, and like usual, never listening to anyone, and it turns out that she just, by the way, said, "Oh, that's my great grandfather." And I was like, "Oh, that's great," and I left. And then about 20 minutes later, I was like, "What?" So I ran back and I had a chat with her and stuff. And indeed, Gandhi is her great grandfather, and she actually is now the patron of the organization. So that's something that's really special. She's been a vegan for I think her whole life, and her daughters are a mixture between a vegan and vegetarian. So obviously the genetic compassionate instinct that Gandhi had has been passed down in the generation. So we were that's just one of our.
So then you'd say the main role of the farm is not that you're saving lots of other extra animals. It's really an education. It's for the people.
Yeah, it's inspiring people to change and absolutely educating. It's sharing what we know is going on in our food system and making people aware and of the atrocities and the nightmare that's happened. And not just about animals. I mean, a lot of people might not really actually care about animals. I mean, we're all different, but there are so many reasons not to consume animals on the planet, and there are so many facts and so many disturbing figures on it, and just to keep it completely simple, eating meat is not sustainable. It's going to end. It's going to run its course and stuff. We don't have. I mean, it's something like a fact that at least 93% of the Amazon rainforest is completely wiped out now because of animal food production. Whether it's putting cattle, whether the animals need to graze for first world country for their desire for meat, or whether it's to grow soybeans to feed these animals. So, anyone that cares about the environment, about climate change, it is just insanely linked. It all comes down to animal agriculture. And I just say, I personally don't have kids really, but if I had kids, I'd say I want to make this planet last, and I want this environment to work for my children and my children's children. So, even if animals aren't your thing, I have faith that ultimately factory farming is going to have to come to an end, because if we carry on at the same pace, we will just, I don't know what happens, but we cannot continue at our rate of what we're doing and the dire consequences of animal agriculture. It's not going to sustain itself with what it's doing.
So how do you, what's your ideal future for the farm? Where do you, in 5 years' time, what's happening here?
Sure. Well, okay. So we would have had Picasso in New York, I'm sure, in one of the top galleries by then. No, look, I definitely have, with this organization, have some very, what I believe are achievable goals in South Africa. We still considered a little bit of a third world country in a way. I mean, we absolutely are under the first world wrath of industrialized agriculture, and we definitely have it. But you'll still drive down the freeway and see 1 or 2 goats outside Khayelitsha. And to be honest, I mean, when I see that, it makes me feel really good, because I can tell you now, if you go to America, and I've spent many, many years there, you will never see one farm animal roaming anywhere. They are all stuck in confinement systems and living out a nightmare situation. So the point is that, in South Africa, I think our meat consumption isn't as extreme as most first world countries like America, but I think that there's just some basic things that we can really change by encouraging consumers to change things. Specifically, by the end of this year, our main goal through Picasso, with her painting antics and the fame that she's acquired through her talents, is to really ban cell confinement in South Africa. It's banned in parts of America, believe it or not.
Okay.
Although I think Trump is probably going to unwind that. But all of the EU, New Zealand, Australia, and England, and basically cell confinement is, breeding pigs that basically give birth to all the piglets that we consume and are sold at 6 months, basically live a cycle of artificial insemination, extreme confinement, farrowing crates when they have their babies, which is also a very tight confined cage system, and then back artificial insemination again and back into these confined crates. And I mean, for 4 years of a sow's life literally is stuck in a cage where they cannot even move their head 20 degrees to the left and right. If you go into these facilities, and I have done it locally in the Western Cape, and it's all over South Africa, and you go into one of these facilities, you will never forget the sound of these pigs screaming and going absolutely ballistically wild from a psychological point of view. And I was reading something the other day, and they talk about if a human being is really depressed and psychologically completely going insane, you can still jump off a bridge and you can end it. Those sows go completely mad and they cannot do anything about it for 4 years. They are stuck in, and I just, someone else likened it to being stuck in a economy class on a 1,500-day flight where you can't even get up and go to the bathroom. And I just think, we can do an open pen system. It's actually cheaper to actually build those from scratch than all the metal that it takes to put these cages in. So the point is, we can do things better, and it doesn't cost much more, and it just gives the animal it just gives the animal a little bit more space and a little bit from a compassionate approach to have absolutely just no care for that animal's welfare, just for its short, miserable life. It's just, I mean, how bad can we really go? There's already no straw. It's all indoors. It's cold concrete. It's waste everywhere. It stinks. It's a nightmare to go into these places. All we're trying to say is just don't confine them in such an extreme way where they can just let them turn around a little bit if they need to turn around. It's not asking for much, but it's certainly one of our goals, and our plan is to drive that by the end of the year with the pork industry. And if not, Picasso might, it sounds crazy, but she might actually sue the pork industry for contravening the Animal Welfare Act, which is an unnecessary confinement of any animal. And I think she could win that one.
That might be the best place to start, because it looks like we've got a constitutional court that stands up for the rights, and that's no one's tested that one.
Yeah.
And maybe that's Picasso's bigger mission. But in the meanwhile, she's delighting and educating.
Yes.
And helping support the farm.
Yes.
Very much
exactly.
So.
I think what Picasso does so amazingly is we have 1 or 2 kids come here on the weekend and they want to see Picasso, and every now and again we get her out and they're just fascinated, and we'll make a fun thing. The parents will then will say, gosh, that's your bacon for breakfast. And I had a boy in here a few weeks ago. It was so amazing. He must have been about 9 years old. He was fascinated by Picasso, and I made the comment, and he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, Picasso's bacon. What did you have for breakfast?" And he said, "But I had bacon for breakfast." And I said, "Yeah, and you had Picasso." And he goes, "But hold on." He's 9 years old. He goes, "But bacon is like long and kind of like a dark color and stuff. That can't be Picasso." And this kid was making exactly the point of the connection. And I thought, I should be recording this. He's got it. He's got it. And so maybe that boy of 9 years old never had a Picasso again for breakfast. And I can't, when I have moments like that, I get really emotional, because I'm like, that's really what this is about. We're not going to change the entire industry. We're not going to stop people from eating, ending the industry. But what we can do is just wake people up a little bit, and to start a really awesome, compassionate journey, in their own life. And who knows where that will go. Talking about Picasso, she's going to be the first animal in the world to host an exhibition. And we're going to do it on World Farm Animal Week. It's going to include the Thursday crowd, for that whole function and stuff. Yes. And then we will be a couple of months at a pop-up art gallery called Oink. And then we plan to take that on a world tour. I think it's just, who better to, rally the cause than a farm animal that's been persecuted, that's been in that industrialized system, and that can actually make it out and be an incredible creative being. So she's got a big weight on her shoulder. I don't think she really feels it. I think she just loves it out here and stuff. It's like whatever. But yeah, I'm just yeah, we love Picasso. Yeah.
And if you would like to find out more about the Farm Sanctuary and the work they're doing, visit their website where you can learn more about that and about Picasso and the other animals. And follow Rod Suskin's World on Facebook, where you can learn more about what's happening on the show and what's happening next. And of course, join me here next Friday at the usual time. See you.